I'm wondering, where is the human in the loop? Final click before the execution.
They don't want you to own your intelligence. Exactly what we want to build. We want to build the last AI built by humans. Having to need almost 5 million plus AI researchers, where are they going to come from?
Real business problem where these SIA move the needle.
We are sort of in the early stages of really the superintelligence takeoff. Something that took humans over 6 months to do, SIA did in 12 hours. It iterated to beat itself and came number one again. Most critical infrastructure in the future. You need to own it.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Prime News series of interviews with top business and technology experts. Today I'm delighted to welcome Kunal Bhatia, who is co-founder at Hexo Labs, a company that builds self-improving AI agents. Kunal, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me, Dana.
Lovely. I'd like to really start off our conversation with the question, what are self-improving AI agents? Maybe you could give us an overview what you're working on at Hexo Labs and later provide us with a real business problem where these SIA move the needle. I would really appreciate
Sure. Look, so our broader thesis is that eventually AI is going to start building itself, and we are sort of in the early stages of really the superintelligence takeoff, right? Which means that when AI starts building a next better version of itself, right? Well, as I said, we're in an early stage of it, but that means that any version of AI that you're building today or using today, right, is still one version below what it could be, right? There could be always a better version. And that's fundamentally what we have built with self-improving AI is SIA. It's our open source repo, which is out there. It's a fundamental architecture where there is a meta agent which improves a target agent, right? So if you're a business that's building a specific type of agent, our meta agent improves that agent that you've built on certain metrics that you might have, which is either performance, cost, latency, or probably even all three of them, right? Another vector which is actually very important is that you've built, say, your agents on a proprietary closed source model like, say, Claude or OpenAI's models. You don't own that intelligence, right? Now, if you want to own that intelligence, a very simple way you could do that is move to open weights models, right? Which you want to move to a Quen model, which is hosted on your own infrastructure stack. Now, you got to do a redevelopment process, right? Because the kind of context that goes into a certain model is very different from the context that goes into another model. The system prompts are different. The kind of tool calling is different. You actually have to run an entire experimental development process to be able to do this shift. That's where our meta agent and SIA comes in, is that it's an automated agent development process, right? You already have a certain agent built out. You tell it that, hey, I want to move to an open weights model that I own, and SIA automatically runs all those experiments and is able to move your agent from one to another.
Okay, that sounds absolutely fascinating. As I said, if you could provide us with the real business problem where SIA moves the needle, for example, and you already mentioned in cost line, revenue line, or maybe speed to market. And also, if you could tell us, like, specifically, what would that, before Hexo Labs and after Hexo Labs story look like in numbers that, for example, a CFO at any company would care about?
Look, so it's fundamentally two different things that we offer, right? Number one is we help you own your own intelligence, right? So right now you're running your agents on closed source models like OpenAI's or Anthropic's. If you own your intelligence, you can bring costs down by almost 90% at inference time, right? Which means that right now you're using extremely general purpose models to do very specific tasks using your agents, right? For example, you want to build a customer service agent, or you want to build a specific like text extraction agent, or you want to build a classification agent, right? If you're using a massive model like Opus 4.8 on the back, it's a very expensive job to do a very simple task, right? You'd rather own a small language model which can do that task on a fraction of the cost. So you have built your prototype or your MVP on Claude. It's fine, but now you're actually taking into production and the costs are rapidly increasing. that's when you want to switch. So that's where SIA comes in. It automatically starts figuring out what is the agent that you need to build on the open source model, right? Like how do you keep the same performance that you had in the closed source model? So it cuts down your costs drastically, right? Because it's an automated process. If you had to do this with actual engineers, you'd probably take months to be able to translate from agent A to B. Here it does it in a matter of hours, right? That's the first part. The second is now your agent is, say, running in production on your own open weights. You've built an agent, but nobody engineers like building agents, but they don't like maintaining it in production because they want to move on to new projects, which is where our continual learning infrastructure comes in, that you can continuously keep improving your agent because our agent monitors your agent because it doesn't sleep. It doesn't get bored of doing it, right? Like what otherwise a human AI engineer would.
Yeah, doesn't get tired, doesn't have bad days. None of that.
Yeah. So as environments change, as the customer profiles change, the model performance starts drifting. Instead, what our agent does, it keeps looking at it and is able to create new versions of it and come back to you and say, hey, look, I observed that in your evals, there's a small drift that's happening. I've created a better version of the agent. Why don't you test this out? So it's like having an AI engineer on your team.
Okay, that sounds fascinating, as I already said, and I like the part where you mentioned building your own intelligence and owning it, right?
Yeah.
How specifically are you achieving that? So now most companies are using these proprietary agents, right? The intelligence with some of the largest LLM companies. How different are you, and why you are able to make this difference on the market?
Well, look, fundamentally, we're very different from say a model provider like OpenAI or Anthropic, right? They probably have self-improving capabilities in-house, but at the end of the day, their business model depends on you renting out the intelligence, right? They're charging you per token, and it's a very profitable business model for them. And they don't want you to own your intelligence. They don't want you to own your own ways, right? And it's clearly put out in Anthropic's terms of service, and they called it out recently when they launched uh, Opus 4.8 that hey, we don't want you training models on this, and it's there in the terms of service. And if you try to train models, we'll degrade the service, right? Um, we're fundamentally different that we want you to own your intelligence, right? That's a philosophical difference and business model difference is that we want you to own your own weights of your models, right? So, well, on top of it, as we mentioned, right, we have that meta agent architecture, which trains your agent, right? It's an AI agent that can train other AI agents. Uh, we support it with backend infrastructure, which can support parallel computing of experiments. Now, the thing is, whenever you're building your agent, you have many variables and knobs you can turn, right? There are primarily 4 or 5 of them. One is you might want to change the harness of it. You might want to change the weights of it. You might want to change the memory. You might want to change the skills. You might want to change the tools, right? Each of these 5 different things that I mentioned are knobs you can keep turning to figure out what is the right configuration or recipe of your agent, right? Uh, Now, the thing is that when you're testing across all these 5, you're running hundreds of experiments to see what works, what doesn't against your eval score, right? That entire part is what's automated by us, right? We say that just tell us what agent you want to build out. You've defined your evals already because you've already built one agent. Uh, and our agent is actually just a hill climbing agent. It'll run hundreds of experiments in parallel and figure out how to hit those eval metrics. And it learns from each of those experiments. So you don't have to set up infrastructure to run every single experiment. You don't have a deployment every time. Our entire backend system does it in an automated way.
Okay. What is the curious question for me would be, we understand the business model for OpenAI or Claude, right? What is your business model, on the contrary?
Well, 2 things, right? We have an open source repo called SIA, Self-Improving AI. If you would like to use it, you can go ahead and use it yourself. And it's a wonderful repo, right? Like you can go and try out how self-improving AI are built out, right? Now, the thing is that the challenge is now you also have to build the infrastructure for it, right? You need to build infrastructure to say if you're training a model, you have to spin up GPUs in parallel. You have to actually build specific environments in parallel as well to test out each of those tool calls changes, each of those skill changes, each of those different model changes as well, right? That is where we kind of come in and supplement it through a managed infrastructure service, right? We charge for that, and we help our customers basically run SIA through a managed environment, right? So SIA is open source. They can go ahead and use SIA for sure if they want, right? Um, the challenge of actually setting up the environment, that is where we kind of help them out, and we charge a fee for that. And of course, it's a consumption based fee.
Got this. So, as you said, open source SIA is real. It's checkable artifact. Anybody who is interested can play with it, and see what is their capabilities, what the capabilities it offers, right? I read in one of your interviews that you talked about 350 times acceleration towards superintelligence. If you could maybe, the number is very specific and precise. I was just wondering, immediately once I read the number, like what is the metric and what are you measuring it against? So if you could walk us through that number, that would be great.
Sure. So, look, we measured it on a benchmark which is put out by OpenAI, right? It's called MLE Bench, which measures the ability of an agent to solve machine learning problem statements, right? Which is fundamentally that, can you test an AI if it can build other AI, right? That's MLE Bench. We ran SIA on a bunch of problem statements on MLE Bench, and when we looked at the trajectories of how human developed agents have progressed on MLE Bench, right? So Claude Code had a certain metric, and the best performing agent on that benchmark, right? The time it took from agent 1 to agent, like the best performing agent, was about 6 months, right? Like there are teams of humans who are constantly iterating and writing better scripts and better agents to solve that problem. And over 6 months, they got to a better metric. When we ran it on SIA, within 12 hours, it kind of kept iterating to actually come to number 1, right? So if you actually look at it, something that took humans over 6 months to do, SIA did in 12 hours, right? Which is almost like a 350 to 360x improvement in terms of time taken. And interestingly, SIA didn't just come number 1. It kind of came to number 1, and then it iterated to beat itself and came number 1 again, right? It's sort of like how Michael Phelps sets the world record and then goes and starts beating himself to set the new world record, right? SIA kept doing that. So fundamentally, that's how we measured, right? Like how much of a time improvement does it take when humans are building agents versus when agents start building agents, right?
Yeah, I liked how you put it, that as AI building AI, right? This is a kind of a motto of your company.
Yeah.
I still would like to talk about some of the, practical implication of the technology, right? Because there is a lot of talk about the AI making, jobs redundant, people like layoffs and so on and so forth. So what we have, that's like first industrial revolution, took the physical work and handed it to machines, right? Nobody was, milking cows anymore. And now it's what is happening, looks like what is happening with the brain work and AI, right? Now we are handing out the brain work to AI. And if a lot of companies say, hey, now AI can write, we'll talk about software engineering. AI can write code. We don't need junior engineers anymore, but we do need architects. Look, from my perspective, I don't know, maybe I get this wrong, and I would like you, Kunal, to explain this a little bit more. Looks like what Hexo Labs is doing, you are moving in further. What you're saying, we don't need architects anymore. AI will be not only writing code, it will be, defining architecture. Coming up with some brilliant idea. So I'm wondering, where is the human in the loop? What is our role? Is it just the final click before the execution? What's your take on that?
Look, I think where we're moving towards is automated AI development itself, right? And if you think about it, like the people who are building some of the most powerful AI systems today in the top handful of labs that you see, OpenAI, DeepMind, Anthropic, etc., are some of the most brilliant researchers in the world, right? Now, the thing is that if you take just the top Fortune 2000 companies, and if you look at each of these orgs, whether it's OpenAI, DeepMind, or Anthropic, there are about like 2,000 plus skilled people in that org who are building the AI system, right? Which is researchers, engineers, infrastructure people, etc. Right? And if each of even the top 2,000 companies in the world, the Fortune 2,000 companies in the world, had to own their intelligence, had to own infrastructure, which is even anywhere close to what some of these labs have, you're talking about, like having having to need almost 5 million plus AI researchers of that caliber, right? Like, where are they going to come from, right? You don't have that many researchers in the world, right? Now that's where AI starts supplementing them as well, right? We're talking about a shortage of talent, which can build these kind of systems, and AI itself can build those kind of systems for the remaining companies. So in a way, it's sort of what we're going towards is democratization of these capabilities, where more people can own the like super intelligence capabilities, right? Not just concentrated in the hands of few. So I think, what do humans do after that? I think most of the humans are sort of specialists in their fields. Um, you know, for example, Dana, you are really good at doing podcasts, right? There are other people who are really good at marketing. There are other people who are really good at sales. There are other people who are really good at product, and a whole variety of fields, right? Even though AI is going to be doing a lot of the grunt work and the manual work of what we do, the drudgery of what we do, in most of our jobs, I think the direction is still ours, right? The power of what it does is still ours, and the ability to translate what we do into taste, that we're able to verify what the AI does, direct the AI on what it's supposed to do. I think that still lies with us, right? Eventually, yes, these capabilities keep getting better, but I mean, we've seen this, like, humans also evolve.
I would be just, curious, how do we identify that line? So if we hand over to AI the power to improve itself, how do we know at which point we need to stop it, right? Where does that line is crossed, and we no longer can allow AI improve itself, build on itself. So how is there metric that will allow us to put this guardrail?
I don't think there's any stopping now, right? Like, especially given the whole geopolitical scenario around it. Uh, the, some of the best open source models in the world, which are coming out, are from China. Uh, it it wouldn't be, helpful to the United States to stop AI development in any way at this point of time, right? It's all sort of like you're building a superpower for yourselves right now with AI, so you wouldn't stop it. I think what is rather more interesting is that how do you align it to human values, to things that matter to us, right? And I think that's a whole research area in itself, that uh, there's a lot who are going on in AI alignment as well, alignment research. That what does it mean to be aligned as well, right? So I think that's still an open area of discussion, but I think alignment is more important. I don't see anyone putting brakes on this at any point of time.
There is a lot of development, a lot new companies are coming, and what is happening is, like, for example, acceleration of certain types of jobs. Let's say radiologists, they don't need to read the images anymore, but they can concentrate on something that AI still cannot do. And or any other job, right? Like, for example, even in podcasting, or I don't know, in teaching, there are lots of jobs, parts of jobs that AI can take, be more efficient, at the same time free more time for the employee, for the worker, to concentrate on something more creative, more productive, etc. I don't think, or maybe I don't understand, this is not exactly what you are doing. It's not concentrating on something small that can be optimized and can be accelerated. It's something fundamentally different. Is that right? Or I am
Well, the way we look at it is that, look, we're entering an age of exponential change, right? We're very used to, at least the human mind is very used to linear thinking that, hey, the last 1 year, this is how much progress happens. So that's how much is going to happen in the next 1 year. Or the last 5 years, there's this much progress happens, the next 5 years. But what's happening is that in the last 5 years, this much progress happened. The next 5 years, that much progress is going to happen. So the curve is actually going that way. And we don't process that because the human mind is not programmed to process in a exponential way, right? What we're trying to build is actually a lever for progress in a way. We're not building a point solution for today, right? That, hey, this is the kind of job that exists today, so we're solving for that. When the entire environment's going to change in the next 5 years as well, right? So what we're building is actually a capability for rapid change and continuous change. And I think a lot of the way we operate as businesses is going to turn into, rather than having very static workflows, it's going to be very dynamic and more self-improving capabilities or self-evolving capabilities, which you would which means that the humans who are managing these systems or are orchestrating these systems need to be building levers which happens through exponential thinking, right? It's more about aligning to the exponential than to the linear. So I think that is where we see ourselves, and that's the kind of world we're building for as well.
Got this. Tell me a little bit more. So you already mentioned in this interview, and also while preparing for our conversation, I saw in quite a few places you talked about concentration of the technology in one hands, and you are actively working to prevent that by making your product an open source. What I can see from history, even like really recent one from 2023 till now, 3 years roughly, Open AI also they initially open sourced some of their product, which did not democratize the technology. What will happen? Let's say you start winning the market. Do you know how you are going to keep the technology democratized and open source? What are the possibilities for that?
Yeah, because fundamentally that is our business model. OpenAI's business model is very different. They're in the business of selling tokens, and it's a very profitable business. They have like tens of billions of dollars of revenue. It just doesn't make sense for them to give you a model which you can host yourselves and then cannibalize that revenue that they have, right? Whereas our revenue model and our business model is that you need to host your model, and we'll help you host your model. So I think there's a fundamental difference in that, and that's why I think we are. It's in our DNA, and it's the way we work.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. Amazing. I know that at Hexo Lab you have some partnership with academia. Can you tell me how specifically does academia help you shape your product, and why did you need that partnership if you can have AI, a self-improving agent?
Yeah, so I think two things, right? Number one is uh, what we're building is an agent that can do AI research, right? It does research fundamentally, right? Like, and research is done over extremely long horizon problem statements and tasks, right? The number of steps that you have to work to kind of get to a certain kind of research outcome is a lot. And the only place where we can work on problems which are verifiable also across a long horizon reason is in partnerships with academia. Number one. Number two is we also run something called the Frontier Research Institute, which is it's basically a platform for accelerating science itself and accelerating frontier research. And our infrastructure, which is an AI that can build AI, right? Can it build AI that can accelerate other frontiers as well? So we actually work with a whole bunch of research scientists across different fields. There's not too much I can talk about it at the moment, but we do work with a whole bunch of scientists across quantum computing, across material science, across a whole bunch of other frontier sciences where they're actually using SIA to accelerate their work as well. So SIA is helping in building new AI models to accelerate other fields of frontier research, which is very interesting. I mean, we want to see where this can push the boundaries as well.
How difficult it is for you as a founder to find the right people for your company with the right set of skills to help you build what you're working on.
Yeah, so we, as I was mentioning, we actually run this thing called the Frontier Research Institute, and our front end of it is called the Frontier Research Club. It's actually every week in the Bay Area we conduct these research talks. We call different types of researchers from different orgs who come there, talk about their work, and we've built a great community. We have over 3,000 AI researchers and engineers who are part of our community in the Bay Area. And this allows us to have a conversation with some of the top researchers and engineers in the field, and we're always a part of the community. We're presenting our work there too. We look at the work that others are presenting, and this has helped us build relationships with some of the best, people in their field in AI. And that's usually what our hiring funnel is like. We're able to kind of attract a lot of talent to these meetups. We're able to kind of benefit the community as well, and that does build some goodwill, and people want to work with us.
I'm just wondering, AI itself is quite a new thing. Of course, there are lots of people like engineers, skilled people. How difficult it is for someone who is new to the field to actually obtain the right, like if it's a software engineer, to obtain the right skills to work on AI agents, let's say.
Look, I think there is a little bit of expertise you need in terms of being able to do evals really well, right? I think software engineers are not really accustomed to working as much with probabilistic systems, and probabilistic systems require you to work with evals. Software's outputs are very binary, like either it works or it doesn't. With AI, it's usually like it works, but it doesn't really work because it doesn't give me the outputs that I wanted. So that's where you need to have an understanding of how evals work and how experimentation works, and develop a bit of more of a scientific mindset, I would say. And that's a leap we're seeing. A lot of software engineers are learning in the last few years and are adapting to this change. I do think that eventually everyone's going to be operating with this mindset, because that's the only way you're going to work, is actually being a verifier yourself of the work that agents are doing.
Great. Like probably one of the last question is like about you. What was your decision-making process, thought process, and how did you identify this niche for yourselves to build this company?
So before this, right, this is my third AI company that I'm building, and prior to this, my co-founder and I used to actually run a consulting services business around AI. We used to go out and build AI for other companies. At some point, our customer pipeline grew so much that I ended up asking my co-founder that, hey, I need an AI version of you. So, that thought really kind of stuck with us when we started speaking about it, that, hey, if AI starts building AI, that is the next level. That's the end game of AI, right? So yeah, and at some point we are like, hey, that's exactly what we want to build. We want to build the last AI built by humans, uh, and that's how we got into it. And we actually were, because we already had a huge customer pipeline. We were already talking to a whole bunch of customers. It got validated quite quickly that, yeah, of course, it's way more efficient if AI starts building the AI models rather than human engineers, and the human engineers are more guiding and building evals for the AI.
What would be the metric for you of success? How would you measure success of Hexo Labs, let's say in 2 years or in 5 years?
Look, I think, look, financial success is one thing in terms of like what kind of revenue we reach, etc. But that's not the important part, right? Our mission is broadly like, how do we enable more and more organizations to be their own lab, AI lab? right? Like, how do we make sure that we're helping more and more companies have similar capabilities to what some of the foundational model companies have, right? Like, um, the way we would measure success is that have we enabled a good number of them to become sovereign in their AI stack in some way, right? I'm using sovereign not in the nation state way, but more in the sovereign enterprise way, right? Like, can your enterprise be sovereign? Can it own its own intelligence capabilities, right? Which I think is going to be one of the most important pillars going forward in the future, because your AI capabilities are going to be your biggest weapon that you have as an enterprise. It's your most critical infrastructure in the future. You need to own it. That's fundamentally it, right? That's what we're building towards.
Yeah, that's a great note to end on. Kunal, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your vision.